These next 5 chapters of Acts hold so much about the life and the journeys of Paul. The reading includes adventures with other disciples, such as Barnabas, Silas, John Mark, and Timothy. I would encourage you to seek out some maps of his journeys. Our blog has journey number 2 pictured for you. And enjoy each of these adventures and see why I call Paul my hero. Paul was transformed by God from a persecutor to a preacher of Jesus Christ. He was very religious, knew all of the laws, and understood the Bible very, very well. He believed that the Christian movement was dangerous for Judaism. Paul got permission to travel to Damascus to capture Christians and bring them back to Jerusalem. But one day on a trip on the Damascus road, God stopped him in his tracks, and his life was never the same again. Until Paul's conversion, very little had been done about carrying the gospel to the non-Jews. Barnabas went to Paul and took him to Antioch, where they met with other believers and studied. They were then sent on their first journey that would begin carrying the gospel to the Roman Empire. Paul worked very hard to convince the Jews that the Gentiles were acceptable to God, and to work even harder at convincing the Gentiles that they were acceptable to God. God did not waste any part of Paul. His background, his training, his citizenship, his mind, and even his weaknesses. The journeys were all very hard and were met with opposition and some even imprisonment. He was never afraid to face an issue head on and deal with it. He was sensitive to God's leading, and despite his strong personality, always did as God directed. Many churches were started along the journey's path, and the new Christians always felt encouragement by the letters that Paul wrote. The life of Paul was centered around the love that he had for Jesus Christ. The verse that reflects that is Philippians 1:21, where he says, "For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." Enjoy reading about the life and the journeys of Paul this week. God does not waste our time. He will use our past, and he will use our present so that we may serve him in our future, just like Paul did. Biblical Shakers will make reading the Bible more enjoyable for you, and I pray that the Holy Spirit will put a hunger on your heart.